Hello, Memphis. I'm Ernest Strickland, President and CEO of the Black Business Association of Memphis. In a world filled with noise, we stand firm, advocating for the prosperity of our community. As the title sponsor of Sispreneur Stories, our commitment goes beyond words. The Black Business Association has been an anchor for Memphis entrepreneurs, navigating challenges and championing resilience. Our involvement in Sispreneur Stories is a reflection of the serious work we're doing to redefine the business landscape in our city. May each episode be a catalyst for personal growth, resilience, and inspiration.
In today's episode, we will be discussing embracing transformation in the workplace, empowering the art of possible. Get ready to be energized as we explore the dynamic landscape of organizational change and innovation with Valerie Mason Cunningham. Ms. Valerie Mason Cunningham is an accomplished senior executive with a proven history of creating business value over her 30-plus year career as a trusted advisor to C-level executives in companies large and small, where she's actively engaging in advocacy, discussions, and design for a diverse workforce and work environment. She's a former senior vice president at Xerox Corporation, where she had many large leadership roles and retired after ascending to the role of vice president of North America Channels Marketing Operations. Valerie is currently an entrepreneur and ICF certified executive leadership coach, is the co-founder and co-CEO of Mason and Rice LLC, and is the managing principal of Pride Matters LLC. Pride Matters stands for Personal Recognition in Delivering Excellence. She currently serves on the board of trustees at Mercy University in Westchester, New York, and serves on multiple committees. Valerie is a member of Friends of URI Urban Resource Institute, focusing on domestic violence, and a strategic business consultant and advisor to Sister International, Inc. Previously, she served as the board chair at Volunteer New York for 3 years, after serving for 9 consecutive years on the board of directors in multiple committee roles. This year, Valerie won the highly esteemed Legacy Award, as well as numerous other awards and distinguished honors for her work in the public and private sectors. Most recently, Valerie delivered a TEDx talk titled, "You Have to Go Through Something to Get to Something," and was the 2023 Trailblazers recipient of the Madam C.J. Walker Economic Development Award.
Welcome to Sispreneur Stories. Valerie, thank you so much for joining the Anthony sisters.
Oh my gosh, what a pleasure it is to be with all of you. Thank you so much.
Hi. Tell me a little bit how you became a Sispreneur.
I became a Sispreneur after my 38 years at Xerox and understanding all of the experiences that I had gone through, which were, it was just an amazing career that I had. I wanted to give back. And I said, what's the best way of doing that? Because as I was coming up in the corporate environment, we definitely made sure that we were giving back to our sisters and brothers coming through the ranks in corporate America. And that was given to me. And so I said, okay, I need to continue this now that I'm leaving the corporate world, but how do I do that? And it became clear that, a coaching experience would be something for me to look into. And I don't need to do that for free. And so bingo, start my own business. And why not? Because people are paying for these opportunities to work with you as you go through your journey in life. And so that's how I became a Sisterpreneur. And I started it as my coaching business and my consulting business, and then morphed into my other business.
Before you go there, I just have a quick question for you.
Sure.
I know that you went to Spelman, right?
That's correct, for 2 years.
What was your major? Is that what you started in? You went right through from college into this industry and you knew what you wanted to do type thing?
Well, I wouldn't give myself so much credit about I knew everything that I wanted to do. I knew that my family said I needed to get a college degree because I was the first in my family to get a college degree. And so my parents were, very supportive in making sure I could do that. I went to Spelman because I wanted that experience of an HBCU. And I was an out-of-state student because obviously Spelman is in Atlanta. So after 2 years, my parents couldn't really afford for me to stay as an out-of-state student, which is why I transferred back to the State University of New York at Old Westbury. Now, at Spelman, though, my major was computer science. And all of my courses were on Morehouse's campus. So, having that experience of having all my liberal arts courses on Spelman's campus and then my computer science and economics courses on Morehouse's campus was, very nice. And I also went to Clark College as well to take on my, chemistry and physics courses. So having that multiple, campus of HBCUs underneath the AU Center was an extremely, extremely beneficial, experience. But the sisterhood of Spelman was so special. It was just it was a magical opportunity that I would never change, even though I didn't officially graduate. All of my classmates from the freshman class to the ones that graduated, I still stay so connected to, and they include me in all of Spelman's, things and activities. And so, the Spell House thing is real because I did marry a Morehouse grad.
Oh, that's our cousins too. It is real, honestly.
Kanji went to Howard.
Okay. Very good. Very good. Hey.
And then that made you so you knew you wanted to coach? Because I didn't know that coach,
No, I didn't know I wanted to coach. Going in as a computer science major. So let me just take a step back and give you a little bit more history. So
I'd love it.
Math and science were my two favorite subjects coming through school, from elementary, junior high, all the way through high school. And in the 11th grade, there was a program that my math teacher introduced me to, which was MITE, Minorities Introduction to Engineering. And it was being held at Lafayette College. And you had to apply for it. And there were students from all over the country. I was accepted into that program. And it was just for 2 weeks. You got to go to Lafayette. You stayed on campus. You went through this introduction to engineering where they gave you all kinds of engineering courses to just kind of get your feet wet. And when I started to touch the computers and understanding software programming, I was like, this is where I want to go, because I always wanted to be a math teacher. That was where my heart was. But teachers weren't getting paid a lot of money. And computer science was like this hot thing. And I was like, I want to go that way and see if I can't utilize my love for math in the spirit of computer science. And so going through that MITE program really helped me shift my mindset around that expertise. And so what was I going to use it for? Didn't know yet, but I thought maybe it could be, programming, for solving business problems. Well, once I got to Spelman, and at that time we were doing, punch cards and COBOL programming, I was like, this is not what I want to do. I don't want to sit in, a computer room typing in things. I want to be out there talking to people, solving business problems. And so having the economic courses and some of my other business courses, I said to myself, that's what I want to be. I want to be in front of customers and be able to tell the story about how technology can change the way they do business. And so when I transferred from Spelman to SUNY Old Westbury, I quickly picked up on business management, marketing and communications, which is, bode very well with all the computer science courses that I had to help me come out into the business world for business problems and solutions oriented. So it wasn't coaching. Coaching only happened after I got into Xerox and I was ready for this new phase of my life. I wasn't thinking about coaching then.
And how did you get into the DEI space? There was a transition there.
Absolutely. So again, Xerox was probably one of the first corporations in America that recognized what now is called employee resource groups. Back then, we were called caucus groups. And the recognition of that came from the Black employees of Xerox. Now, I was still a little wet behind the ears when all this started, but I was, there. And the men and women actually challenged Xerox to this idea of, the balance in the workforce and representation. And so being a part of that and actually being an outcome of the push that those groups did, understanding that was so important. And it wasn't a
What year
coffee.
is this?
And that
Well,
sounds
this
scary.
is 1980.
Scary.
This is
Like, was that
1980.
scary?
It was very scary because, when I came in to Xerox, there was only a couple of other Black reps in my district. There was nobody who looked like me in a senior position. So me and my, kind of spirited way, I wanted to be the first Black woman to do something in this big company. But I really didn't think I was going to stay with Xerox more than maybe 2 or 3 years. And then I'd go to someplace else like an IBM or, some of these other bigger companies, Dell, But I stayed with Xerox because of this commitment that the CEO then was listening to these affinity groups on why it was important to diversify their portfolio. And he recognized it because we brought to their attention that it wasn't just a checking of the box. What it was a business imperative because the customer landscape was changing. And because of the civil rights movements and, a lot of these other things were changing, EEO codes, et cetera, Xerox was at the forefront of those opportunities. Now, we didn't always get it right, but we were at the forefront of those. And these groups, we didn't spend time just kind of, slapping each other on the back and saying how things were. We were doing work, and we had as many of the senior Black people would come to the regional, we had chapters. So we had a New York chapter, a DC chapter, an LA chapter, where a lot of the Black employees were working. And most of the Blacks were either in sales or service. Some were in administration, but we brought all of those functions together. And we would meet once a month in Harlem. And we were the minority metropolitan area of minority employees. We would call them MAME in New York. And we would meet in Harlem in the state office building on Thursdays. And they would be after hours. So it wasn't a part of, taking you away from your business. But what we would do is have those senior Black executives give us the understanding of the business strategy for the company, why what we were doing was so important, keeping it real, that performance counts. We don't have the opportunity to fail like others. So we had to overperform. And if you were struggling, you needed to reach out to people. So,
Well, what's so crazy to me in all of this? It's like what's going on in the world right now, where they're taking away everything. And like when you just said 1980, like people are trying to make it seem like now it's just coming out of the woodwork and we're just trying to get, and you're telling me like this has been happening for a long time. And yeah, it's just amazing that this has been going on for so long and we've been trying to like bridge into diversity and everything. Sorry, it's really cool.
And the other thing, that was the Black employees group. But as we started to see representation, the brothers were always getting the opportunities, and the sisters, we were in the minority category, but others would get those opportunities. We were in the women's category, but the others would get those opportunities. So we actually started a Black Women's Leadership Council at Xerox, which was a subgroup inside of the Black employees, but it was mainly Black women. And it was started with a certain level of higher up Black women that got together. It was like 13 of them. And again, this was in the 80s, where they met in someone's home to talk about how were we going to start to change the trajectory of Black women in the company, because while it's on the platform of the minorities, it gets lost when the opportunities come. And we got a lot of pushback for that because it was like, well, can't you just be a part of the one group? And it was like, of course we are, but we need this voice really articulated and not dummy down in the
Absolutely.
other
And
minority discussions.
it's a particular voice that often is the last voice to be heard, who is often saying the right, strategy that we need to accomplish things. But that makes me segue into a question I wanted to ask you about community and what drives you. Throughout this process, you just explained how you were giving back in your job, right? At Xerox, you said, I need to look behind me and help others who will be coming after me. What drives you to have that community service and to look back and look to help others?
Well, part of that comes because of my church background, because obviously I was very much engaged in my church, and the people in my church would look at me because of the things I was doing. And I wanted to make sure that the things I was learning, like we used to do in those meetings with the Black employees, training and teaching strategy, I wanted to make sure I could give back to those coming behind me in my church community, which then led to what we used to do with our Black employees and the Black Women's Leadership Council. We would go and make sure other Black women were understanding what we were doing at Xerox so we could help those other Black women. And so we would invite them to our conferences annually from Citigroup or Morgan Stanley, because they were kind of in an island on their of themselves over there. And we were like, well, let's kind of make this a bigger community. And so that's how I started to really want to give back, because I see opportunities. And so the woman who is the founder of Sister to Sister International, Cheryl Brannon, used to work at Xerox, and we were very close. And she's going to celebrate 30 years of Sister to Sister International this year. But that's exactly what she wanted to do with Sister to Sister International and anyone of our African descent, to really have the opportunity to understand these corporate ways, these minefields that are out there for Black women, and how can we overcome them?
You know what's cool, guys? Like in the episodes that we've been doing, networking seems to keep coming up as like the most important thing. And I love how you just mentioned, like you said, the groups in the 80s and then you applied that to what you were doing then. I wonder, how like right now, like I said, there's so many things going on in this world, and it's like we need actionable items. This actually sounds like maybe we bring that back from how we used to. Like, I remember going to people's homes, like we're West Indian, and I remember like the Nevis Club and like just so many different.
And I do wonder if those aspects of our culture are a little bit lost. Are we seeing these groups where there are affinity groups based on what, can be race or gender? Are they, I guess that sense of community, I wonder if it's still there. And I do hope that it is, because what you're speaking about is a very strong community where you guys felt obligated to the people around you as stakeholders and to make them better.
And how do we bring that back right now? Like, you know what I mean? Like we need these actionable items right now because things have to change. Like just what's going on out here, like even, just all these different things with education being taken away, Black education. And
can you talk about that, Valerie? Good point to bring up. We're seeing a reversal of a lot of the work that has been done for decades. I mean, hard work and people putting their lives and their livelihoods on the line. What do you do in this environment, especially with this election coming up, and not talking about politics, but just talking about how you move forward with something that you have been a pioneer in?
Well, that's a great question. And it's interesting because we're sitting here in an industrial time frame where never in the history of the workplace have we had 5 generations that sit in it. And those 5 generations come from a background that are very different. And how do you build that level of trust and respect between like my generation and like my son who's 26, his generation, who, they've grown up with all these, different technology devices where they get instantaneous information versus having a dialogue about what's really going on. How can we help each other, and not send me a text message, but talk it through. So there is this opportunity, not only from a mentoring standpoint, but I believe from a reverse mentoring standpoint, because I too have some learning still to do based upon the way the world has changed. You can't do it the way I used to do it back in the 80s. It doesn't work as effectively. However, I do still believe that this idea of inclusiveness and compassion is the lost art. We're not compassionate with each other. We don't listen effectively anymore. We don't communicate with one another. We don't shut down the devices and just talk. We don't.
Guys, we need some snaps on that.
We call them soul snaps that we do when we hear something in our podcast that is just, it hit the heart and soul. Thank you for that. Yes, please continue.
Yes, because one of the things that, we need is to have the opportunity to be vulnerable and to be empathetic. And that unshakable sense of belonging, which is what Mason and Rice really focuses in on, is missing here. And it's because
explain a little bit about that. You said the B. There's the You're one of the only people with the DEIB that I see the B being the push. So can you go a little bit about that too?
Yeah, I mean, it's a human need for us to be a part of something. That's belonging. Whether it's a church group, whether it's our family, whether it's, our neighborhood friends, associations, Greek things, which I'm not a part of, but, everybody has a need to be a part of something. And this has to be a part of what's going on, not only in the workplace, but in life in general. And we don't do that. We don't allow people to come in. We're always judging before given the opportunity to even say anything, which is why I like the voice, because what they're doing by not looking at the person, they're actively listening to the person. And if they really have a voice, then they belong to that community of the voice. If they don't, then they have to go and continue to work, and that's okay. They give them great feedback to go. But belonging, we have done this research, and it is very clear that when a work environment has a sense of belonging, you can have a 75% reduction in absenteeism. That hits the bottom line when people aren't absent from their jobs. With a sense of belonging, you can also have a 58% increase in job performance because people feel like they can bring their authentic self to the team, and the team is going to be respectful of what they have to say. Now, it doesn't mean that you're always going to get your way, but when you feel a sense of belonging, you feel like I can say things without retribution, without judgment, and seek out what those differences are. Respect
I think everybody needs to be listening to this because a lot of companies out here need you.
This is priceless. And the thing is, people really respond to statistics. So the fact that you're coming with the comments, but then you're bringing hard numbers with it. So that just takes it to the next level. Yeah.
As a part of our presentation, we talk about why belonging matters, from the starting point of the entry level to protecting your, employee base, retention, all the way through to innovation and profitability. Because at the end of the day, you're running a business to make money. And even if you're in a nonprofit space, you're not there to shareholder value, but you're there to donor value. And those donors will either stop giving the check or they're going to give more. And so you have to have an organization that's functioning because of What's there? Human capital.
Today's business tip is sponsored by Udel, connecting merchants with nearby consumers. Did you know companies with inclusive cultures are 6 times more likely to be innovative and agile and 2.3 times more likely to outperform their peers? According to Deloitte's Global Human Capital Trends Report, prioritizing diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging unlocks diverse perspectives that fuel innovation and growth, starting by setting clear DEI and B goals, empowering diverse talent, and fostering an inclusive culture. Remember, inclusive leadership isn't just good ethics, it's smart business. And that's our business tip of the day.
We don't look at it as human capital's ROI, return on investment. We look at the ROI, meaning the return on your intentions. Because are you intentional about maintaining the human capital that you've invested in? Because if you are, you spend time with them. You get to understand who they are. And see, a lot of times when we get in to those opportunities, then we're just left to do what we have to do. Nobody really gives us the unwritten rules conversation.
No, they don't.
100%. And often we're not part of the group, right? We don't feel like we belong.
You don't belong. Exactly. But if you belong, you'll find that teams will automatically shadow somebody, or they'll be a mentor to somebody who's coming on board to give them kind of the, let me give you the unwritten rules here. When you come into the meeting room, don't sit in that chair because Valerie sits there.
Exactly.
That's just her favorite chair. Everybody knows that. You wouldn't know that, and you'd come in and sit right there, kind of thing, which has happened to me in big meetings. I didn't know that was so person's chair. Nobody gave it to me, and I was sitting there, and the person comes in and goes, "No, I usually sit here." I'm like, "Oh, I'm sorry."
Thanks, guys. Thanks for setting me up. Exactly.
But belonging is not something that people consider, and yet it's a human need. We have to belong. So why aren't we facilitating that? And so there's a couple of things that we do with our clients, because a lot of times when we walk in to do these workshops, we call them facilitated learning sessions, because we want to meet the person where they are, because everybody's at a different space and place, but we want to allow the audience a brave space where we can talk about anything and be able to grow from it. And we have an exercise that we do where we invite people to learn about what's different about you that I visibly can't see. So you can see I'm a Black woman. You can see I wear glasses. You can see I have short hair. But what about me that's different that you would not know? Well, the only way you would know that is by me telling you. So we ask everybody, tell something about yourself that no one would know about you. And it's interesting because people listen intently. And you hear laughter because, people do skydiving. I got some tattoos that, are not shown, or, whatever it may be. And, you hear the laughter. And then
it reminds me of, Valerie, when I was a kid, one of my friends, I went to a Catholic retreat, and I'd never done anything like that. And there were trust exercises and singing, and it was just 2 days. And I had a relationship with those people for the rest of my life, just in those 2 days. And now that you're saying that, it was because I felt like I belonged.
It's an amazing, amazing process. And then the next exercise that we have them do is, now that you all have talked about the differences, find out what's similar amongst all of you. And again, it can't be visibly seen. It can't be, well, we all have on, glasses, or we all have on, makeup, or no. What is it? And the only way you can do that is now you got to talk about things to see where those similarities are. And we only give our breakout teams 15 minutes for this exercise. It's not a lot of time.
That's raw. That's very raw. You have no time to lie, because
Correct.
people don't like to hide themselves.
Correct.
And what you're talking about,
it's like, you better tell the truth that you're.
But the interesting fact is, when they come back together and they share, well, this was the thing that was different, or this was the thing that was similar, Everybody likes the exercise, but the purpose of the exercise is they demonstrate diversity. They demonstrate diversity, equity, inclusion, access, and belonging. Why? Because nobody had judgment. They didn't allow those creepy bias to come up. They were actively engaged because they knew they needed to learn something about those other people. And it's an amazing quick 15 minutes, and people just sit back and go, you're right.
And Valerie, again, these are actionable items. And if people do that at work, that can translate even to day-to-day life to make this a better world. Like, we need to do something.
You took the words out of my mouth. I was like, Valerie just solved the world's problems, and we can just let all the leaders know that we have something. But that also
well,
makes
I can't wait for you to hear my acceptance speech then, because I talk about one band, one sound, and I had everybody on their feet declaring what they were going to do. Because my first question to them is, how do you measure humanity? That was my opening statement.
Wow. Now I'm not going to go to sleep. You know, it's like I'm going to be sitting there trying to come up with that answer. That's a good question.
Valerie, so, you have this long career at Xerox, and, a lot of times people think, all right, we're done. I had my time. I put in a good run. And at the end of it, you stepped out and you said, I'm going to pivot and I'm going to take like a second chance on me and I'm going to do another great thing. I just want to hear about what was going on for you to make you not just, you could have probably put your feet up and relax for the next 20 years, but you decided, you know what, I'm going to get in deeper. I'm going to add more things.
She was like at the board of everything. She could have gone home, relaxed, gone and hung out with Allie, had some tea.
Sorry, I think beach and Mai Tai. So I'm just.
And the fun part about this is when you reach that chapter end of your career, your life doesn't fall off the cliff. It's like, what else do you want to do with your life? And so for me, I call this my desirement phase. It's not my retirement phase. It's my desirement phase. My retirement phase was making sure that financially I was, going to be okay. But okay, now what? Because that's why people are stuck when they get to that stage of their life. Because they feel like their identity was their company's and their career, and that's not your identity. That's what you needed to do in that chunk of time in your life. But you want to live now. You really want to live. And so I call it my desirement phase. And it's, what do I desire to do?
Valerie, I have a quick question. Like kismet, life. So it was like everything that happened to you in life brought you to this moment to do what you're doing.
And I'm still learning, Aurora. I'm still learning and growing. I'm still morphing. I'm still editing. I'm still, I call it my experience map. And when you listen to my TEDx about you have to go through something to get to something, I was going through all that.
Speak on that a little bit, Valerie.
I'm sorry?
Can you just speak on what that means? I think that's really important.
So the thing is I talk about the nursery rhyme, row, row, row your boat gently down the stream, merrily, 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 life is but a dream. So when you think about that, when you row your boat, we're all vessels going through life's, journey. Merrily down the stream is the ebbs and flows, because the current takes you, through different ebbs and flows in your life. Thinking about the next part of merrily, it's about bringing positive energy, because that's your energy attracts like energy. So if you bring negative energy, you're going to get negative energy. And I don't know anybody who loves negative energy. So I try to get out of it as quickly as possible. And I try to surround myself with people that are like-minded. And then life is but a dream. Dream big. What else? As I went through those 38 years, there were things I couldn't do. Because I was busy and I was doing these things, and I wanted to be the best mom that I could be, but I was a working mom. So now I get to spend time with my son, even though he's an adult. It's still great. I get to call the shots. Nobody's telling me what to do. That's
an environment.
That's a great thing. If I want to go to the beach, I have timeshare in Aruba. I'm always going to Aruba. Had it for more than 30 years. So that's I know I'm headed. So, and I know that there is still a lot of opportunity for inspiring Black women, inspiring young women, inspiring young men, inspiring people to really, everybody deep down inside wants to be a good person. But for whatever reason, life happens and they choose differently. And so going through something to get to something means you never know what and why these experiences you're going through is giving you. But when you look back on your life's journey and you think about this tapestry that has come together, there were things that you had to go through that you didn't understand, but it was preparing you for the future. And we're not supposed to know all of that. Now, this is my spiritual part coming out as well, because I know it's God's plan. It's not my plan. So I'm just here to give my all. And my all is, how can I help someone else through the lessons that I've learned, give them a shot to let them understand it's okay. You're exactly where you need to be. But now where do you want to go from here? And help them navigate through their uncertainties, through their seas of uncertainty as this vessel going through it, and find their opportunity where they can shine. And so coming out of 38 years into my desirement phase, one of the things I really had to do was take a gap. I took, and I now tell people, take at least a month to 2 months, if not longer, when you come away from being in the throes of a corporate or any structure for a long period of time, because your body just needs to like rejuvenate, decompress. I slept for 2 weeks. I mean, I was tired.
Wow. Yeah.
I didn't realize how tired I was. And I got bored with the whole, well, you can go to the mall or you can, have lunch with everybody. I mean, it was like, okay, that's nice, but this is not what I want to do every day either. And so I actually went through Leadership Westchester, the program that Volunteer New York offers.
Awesome.
And what that did is it's a session that helps you understand the leader inside of yourself. So you work on inside out. What are your values? How do you show up every day? What is it that you want to do? And it really gave me clarity around the fact that my mission in life was to take all of my wisdom and experiences and penetrate into this world such that I could radiate through others so they could level up their playing field and become a better person through the experiences that life has in front of them. That's what I do every day.
That's beautiful.
Are so inspirational.
Wow. Oh my goodness. I got chills. Did you guys? I just got chills. I
didn't. And it's also amazing when people know their life's purpose. Conjure and I just talked about this last week, that at some point you hope in your life that you finally learn your life's purpose. And it sounds like you really found your life's purpose and that you're able to live it out every day. And I hear the passion.
Yeah. And you hear that at it. Yeah, go on. Sorry, Janita. What were you saying?
Oh, no, that's what I'm saying. You hear the passion and it's beautiful. Thank you.
I love it.
You hear about the adage that there are 2 moments in your life that are the most important moments: birth and the moment you find out why you were born. And it sounds like you figured it out. And this is an inspiration for us to be more like that. So thank you so much, Valerie, for everything. This was amazing.
Well, my pleasure. And I will say one other thing, I mentor 8 young women, and it was a connection because of a guy who mentored me. He's no longer here, but he started this program in Mount Vernon School District to help the school district transfer their records into digital, but they couldn't afford the technology. So he created a business where the students would actually do this work. But he created it where they had to have a vice president, they had to have an HR person, they had, interview, and it was called Project Genesis. So 8 of these young women now had graduated, went to college, and now they're in the workforce. And he came to me and he said, I've been mentoring them, but I can't help them because I'm not in the game anymore and I'm not a woman. He said, would you mind? He says, I know you're busy. Would you mind? And I said to him, his name was Art Crawford. I said, you're asking me to do this? Of course I'm going to do it. And these 8 women are amazing, amazing, amazing. I mean,
and this is why exactly we put this podcast together, because there are so many stories of us and we don't get to show our beauty, our insights, our what we can do, and actually pull that curtain back and let people know what we are actually doing behind the scenes.
Well, it's funny. It's funny you say that. I just have one story to tell you about that, because I became in 1984 the first Black female at Xerox to run the major account team in the financial and banking market on Wall Street. So all along it was men. I was the first Black female to run it. And I ran it when the market crashed, but we still outperformed. Now, what was funny is when I would go to these meetings, they would think that I was there to take notes, or I was the junior rep and, my, sales rep was the senior person. And a brother, actually one of my mentors, said to me, now you're taking on this assignment. And this is how powerful the Black Employee Network was. These are the conversations we would have with one another. He said to me, now you have been promoted to this. Don't get it twisted. It's just not because, you showed up and gave the great interview. It's because we're telling people they got to give you this opportunity. So now you've got it. He said, now when you go into these meetings, understand there's going to be a lot of, Caucasian males. They've never seen a Black woman in a suit coming in to run a business meeting. They're going to see you as their nanny, their housekeeper. And my first meeting, when I walked in, the guy was an executive vice president of a big financial services group. He thought I was there to take the notes. And I looked at my salesperson and I said, so you did not properly introduce me. You need to straighten this game out, because I'm not here to take notes. I'm here to see what it is you need, because I can make the decision on behalf of Xerox, whether or not we want the business and what we will do to accommodate you. And he sat back. He was like, whoa, what happened here? Said, no, I'm not here to take notes, but my account executive will take notes if we need to take notes. I'm here to enable the decision that you are going to make to do business with Xerox.
And you know what? And this is why we did this, for empowerment, to allow ourselves. Go ahead, Kanji.
I'm sorry. I know we need to end because we're going over, but you're amazing. And I just feel like, when everyone was stuck in the pandemic, George Floyd happens, everybody sees this painful moment, and then everybody says, oh, this is why inclusion matters. But then after a couple of years, an apathy set in, and also a resentment. And so I just want to talk about, how do we find a balance between that then and now and moving forward?
Well, it's a great question, because we're looking at the wrong things, which is why this has become such an uproar. We don't want to face the fact that the demographics of the world have changed. The demographics are more people of color, period, full stop. And nobody wants that. And I get it, because it's been your playing ground for hundreds, centuries. And I get that. But unfortunately, the time has come. And so they're just trying to hold on to it as long as they can. And here's where that question that I posed in the Legacy Award, what is the measure of humanity? Because that's what we're talking about here. Is humanity going to survive, or are we going to kill each other off? Because it's really not ours to do. We've got to press on. When God wants to come and end the world, he will, and he's going to come. And it seems like sooner than we think, because we're just out of control. But the magic here is that we've got to bring this inclusive heart and this breath of compassion back and understand that we're all here to help each other. Nobody's here to just be subservient. So it's going to be a struggle, but this too shall pass. This too shall pass, because people are starting to recognize, wait a minute, this doesn't make any sense. My son told me that this white woman at his job was going to be reading stories in her child's school, but they banned all the books that had to do with animals talking or doing all this stuff. And she's like, well, what are we supposed to read to kids now? And my son just looked at her and said, this is how crazy they've taken this thing. It's too far. And she's like, I think I'm moving to another country.
We were growing up, wasn't like book banning the worst thing in the whole world? And like, we were so proud of America as not book burners. Am I wrong?
No, you're absolutely right.
We're in the upside down.
We really are.
Upside down. It's literally like, it's just, yeah.
We're in the 27th dimension.
Well, it's the feeling of, we've given you too much latitude. Now we want to take it back. And they're just going swinging the pendulum too far, where it's going to actually hurt everybody, including themselves.
Yeah. And the thing is, I think people are fearful that when the current regime is no longer in power, that we will treat people the way that we were treated. So I think that's really the deep fear, is that will people have humanity, or will they, carry out the way that America has always been, or will we be compassionate, and will we have humanity? So yeah.
We're losing our, swag.
Yes, we are.
In the world.
Swag, not the swag.
Great conversation, but I don't want to end on this note. Let's end on something.
Yes.
Okay, ready? So Valerie, I think you know about your lightning round questions, right?
You did say something was going to come around that.
Okay, so let's go. If you could have dinner with any historical figure, who would it be and why?
I want to have dinner with Michelle Obama.
Why?
I just want to talk to her about her story. I want to talk to her about her strength. I want to talk to her about her bravery. I want to continue the conversation that the book Becoming was all about, and to really, just celebrate her for being first, lady of the house, the real house down in DC.
And just think about how well she did too, like that job.
And managed the family.
And not imagine.
It was her.
I would love to have dinner with her, and if we could do it with the other people, Maya Angelou would be at that table.
No, this is one person. Okay, next one.
No, I like hearing all the people. That would be fascinating. I'm sorry. Okay, go on.
One answer, Missy. What's your favorite guilty pleasure food that you indulge in from time to time?
Strawberry shortcake. I love strawberry shortcake.
I mean, just because it's like strawberry and then the cake is not like, that's not a bad one. That's
birthday cake for all of that's our birthday cakes.
It's really good.
It's my favorite cake, except for tres leche. Sorry. Tres leche.
Such a clean flavor, such a clean dessert, but it hits the spot. That's a good one.
Okay. Yeah. Last one. If you could teleport yourself anywhere in the world for just a weekend getaway, where would you go?
Aruba. I love Aruba.
Oh,
it's just.
So let me ask you a question. So Janita and I went back in the day, and we didn't find out. We always make this mistake. We don't go out and tour until the last day, when you should go in the beginning, so you know what you want to do. And so we ended up going to Orange Set. Is that what it's called? At the end?
Yes.
Okay, do we need to go back? Do I need to go back? It's been a long time.
You should, because this all built up. And we have a timeshare on Eagle Beach. So we're not in the area where all the pomp and circumstances, but they have a 5-star restaurant right there on the property. They have a spa right there on the property. We'll go up to the other hotels and for dinner or for brunch on Sunday. But I just like sitting by the pool, sitting on the beach, and just chilling.
And I have the nerve to say that you would be sitting around drinking tea. You'd be on the beach.
I'll be on the beach,
And so
doing
that
my
is
thing
that is what
with my Kahlua colada.
Oh,
that's what you love about Aruba. It's the just the ambiance, or what is it specifically about Aruba?
People are just so friendly there. They're so friendly there, and the food is good, and it's easy to get to. It's only a 4.5 hour plane ride from New York.
I went
And
to Curacao and I liked it. Is it the same makeup of people in Curacao as it is Aruba, do you think?
I have never been to Curacao, so I can't say.
Because it's the ABC Islands, I just
But it's
assumed.
right there next to it.
Yeah.
I just know that the guy we go fishing, because I do deep sea fishing, believe it or not. He's from Curacao, so he tells us a lot about it. But I also just enjoy the culture. Their kids learn 9 languages before they graduate from high school. That's a
I think they speak
requirement.
5 languages in
Oh
Curacao.
my
too.
gosh, guess what? That's why when I flew in, I couldn't figure out the language that this couple was speaking, and it was because they were switching. And I found them later, during a dinner on another night, and I said, "What language were you speaking?" And they said, "Oh, we were just switching between I know 5, she's know 7." And I was like, "What?"
Yeah, maybe it is 5 that they have to have when they graduate from high school, but their language is Papimento, which is the Spanish dialect. And then they have to learn Spanish, French, German, and they have to know Dutch because it's a Dutch island, and English. Those are the requirements before you can graduate from high school.
Jeez.
Exactly. Exactly right. So I just love that. And like I said, when we go back, they're so friendly. They remember us. They remember things we've talked to them about. I mean, it's amazing because we only go once a year, but we've been going there for like 30 years now. And so it's just wonderful. And like the last 2 years we went, we used to always, we would have, go to this casino at night, da, da, da. Now that my son can hang out at the casino, we don't even do it. We just kind of chill. It's just like a chill factor the whole time, because he's like, I just want to chill, Mom. I'm like, okay, well, that's cool. That's a good thing. And we get to spend family time because we're not on the phones, or we're not watching, I mean, when we started going there, they didn't even have cable. Now you have all the
When
channels.
it was not built up. It was all casinos.
Yeah, well, it's beautiful. I just love it. The sunsets are amazing. The sunrises are amazing. So, and I love to just be a part of, nature.
Well, I just have to, on behalf of the Anthony sisters, thank you, Valerie Mason Cunningham, for gracing Sispreneur Stories with your story. And we will never be the same. We have grown and we're so excited. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
My pleasure.
Thank you, Valerie.
Thank you so much. And I agreed. I learned something today that I will take with me and that I've probably never heard before. So I'm thankful.
And as we come to this close of an electrifying episode of Sispreneur Stories, we have been truly inspired by the remarkable journey of Valerie Mason Cunningham. We hope that Valerie's journey has ignited a spark of empowerment within you, encouraging you to embrace your dreams and take bold, decisive action. Remember, each step you take can shape your own path to success and create positive change. Thank you for joining Sispreneur Stories.
This is Ernest Strickland, President of the Black Business Association, proud to be your title sponsor on this empowering journey with Sispreneur Stories.